Hello, everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we are covering one of the most shocking events in the ongoing Russian-Ukraine war. The Crimea Bridge has exploded once again, leaving massive flames, twisted metal, and a stunned Moscow. The bridge that once stood as a proud symbol of Russian control over Crimea is now a blazing ruin. This time, the destruction is even greater, the message even louder, and the implications even more serious for Vladimir Putin and his war strategy. The explosion happened during the quiet hours of the night. Residents living near the Kerch Strait reported hearing two deafening booms that shook windows and sent shockwaves across the region. Within minutes, social media was flooded with videos showing enormous fireballs erupting from the bridge, lighting up the entire sky. What followed was chaos. Smoke billowed for miles. Vehicles were scattered across the burning roadway, and sections of the bridge collapsed into the dark water below. Russia immediately went into emergency mode. The bridge was sealed off, military helicopters circled the area, and ferries were redirected to manage stranded travelers. But no amount of damage control could hide the truth. This was another devastating strike, right at the heart of Putin's pride. The Crimean Bridge, personally inaugurated by Putin in 2018, has been hit again, exposing the vulnerabilities of Russia's most important connection to Crimea. Analysts believe this attack was carried out with remarkable precision, likely using maritime drones packed with explosives. Ukraine has been developing advanced sea drones for months, capable of traveling hundreds of kilometers undetected. These small, unmanned vessels can navigate below radar and strike with pinpoint accuracy. If that's true, this operation shows just how far Ukraine's capabilities have evolved since the start of the war. The bridge is more than just steel and concrete. It's a strategic lifeline, carrying supplies, troops, and fuel from Russia into occupied Crimea. Every time it's damaged, Russian logistics suffer. Trains stop, convoys reroute, and supply chains are disrupted for weeks. Beyond that, it's a psychological blow, one that cuts deep into the image of control and strength that the Kremlin tries to project. Putin once called the bridge the beating heart of Russian Crimea. But tonight, that heart is once again in flames. The fire spread across multiple lanes, causing sections of the structure to collapse into the sea. Videos showed burning vehicles, melted guardrails, and enormous cracks running along the road. Emergency crews struggled to contain the fire while fearing secondary explosions from nearby fuel trucks. For hours, traffic came to a standstill as rescue operations continued amid the smoke and heat. In Moscow, officials scrambled to frame the incident as terrorism. State TV channels tried to downplay the severity, showing limited footage and claiming that the fire was under control. But satellite images and eyewitness videos told a different story. The damage was extensive, possibly worse than the previous attack. Even Russian bloggers and military correspondents admitted that the bridge's structure might take months to repair. For Ukraine, the message is unmistakable. Every strike on the Crimea Bridge is a statement: Crimea is not safe, and Russia's occupation will never be permanent. While Ukrainian officials rarely take direct responsibility for such attacks, their statements are often filled with hints. After this explosion, one advisor to President Zelensky posted on social media, "Any illegal structure connecting Russian-occupied Crimea with the rest of Russia must be dismantled, voluntarily or not." The symbolic impact of this attack is enormous. The Crimea Bridge represents the physical and emotional link between Russia and its occupied territory. It was built at great cost, both financially and politically, to show the world that Crimea would remain under Russian control forever. Putin himself drove a truck across it during the opening ceremony, smiling for the cameras, presenting it as a monument of his success. But every explosion since then has turned that symbol into one of failure and fragility. International observers are closely watching the aftermath. Western intelligence sources have reported increased Russian air activity over Crimea, suggesting that Moscow fears further strikes. Satellite images have also shown heightened naval patrols around the Kerch Strait. Despite these efforts, Ukraine has repeatedly demonstrated its ability to strike far behind enemy lines, targeting high-value assets with strategic precision. What makes this latest explosion even more significant is its timing. It comes at a point when Russia is trying to reinforce its southern front and maintain control of supply routes to occupied areas like Melitopol and Kherson. With the bridge damaged again, those supply lines are severely restricted. Russian troops on the ground will now face delays in receiving reinforcements, fuel, and ammunition. This could directly affect the outcome of battles along the southern front. In addition, the attack sends a powerful psychological message to Russian citizens. For many Russians, the Crimea Bridge was more than infrastructure. It was a national symbol of pride and unity. Seeing it in flames again sparks fear and frustration. Questions are being raised about how such a critical structure can be attacked repeatedly despite heavy military protection. Putin's reaction has reportedly been one of anger and disbelief. According to Russian media leaks, the Kremlin held an emergency meeting within hours of the blast. Security chiefs briefed Putin on the extent of the damage, while military officials proposed retaliatory strikes against Ukrainian targets. However, it's clear that each retaliatory strike only intensifies global criticism and isolates Russia further. The propaganda machine has already gone into overdrive. Russian state channels are calling for vengeance, while pro-war bloggers are demanding harsher responses. But beneath the surface, cracks are showing. Many Russians are beginning to question their leadership's ability to protect even the most symbolic sites. Meanwhile, Ukrainians are celebrating another successful demonstration of resilience and precision. Images of the burning bridge have gone viral worldwide. The orange glow of the flames reflected on the water below paints a haunting picture of the war's intensity. The sight of the structure collapsing, once hailed as an unbreakable link, now stands as a metaphor for Russia's crumbling narrative. Global media outlets are covering the story extensively, calling it one of the most dramatic moments of the conflict so far. For the Ukrainian people, this isn't just about military success. It's about hope and justice. Every strike on occupied Crimea reminds them that liberation is possible, that the enemy's grip is weakening, and that their fight is far from over. For soldiers on the front lines, it's a morale boost, proof that their efforts are making a real difference. Experts say that rebuilding the bridge will take months and cost hundreds of millions of dollars. Russia will likely rush to repair it, but doing so under constant threat of new attacks will be a challenge. Each reconstruction becomes a gamble. Will it last, or will another explosion bring it down again? The destruction also forces Russia to reroute its logistics through land routes and ferries, which are slower, less secure, and more vulnerable to Ukrainian attacks. This complicates military operations and puts additional pressure on an already strained supply chain. As for the global response, many Western nations have pointed out that the bridge is a legitimate military target because it serves Russian military logistics. NATO analysts have highlighted Ukraine's growing ability to strike deep and accurately, marking a significant shift in the balance of power. Every successful Ukrainian operation like this proves that modern warfare is not just about numbers or size, but about intelligence, technology, and precision. Putin's inability to prevent repeated attacks on the bridge undermines the image of strength he has tried to maintain. It shows vulnerability in the very heart of his empire. Even with advanced air defenses and naval patrols, Ukraine continues to find ways to hit where it hurts most. The longer this continues, the more Russia's image of invincibility erodes. As dawn broke after the explosion, the once mighty bridge stood in ruins, still smoldering from the fire. The sea below reflected the flickering light of the flames, and smoke drifted across the horizon. The contrast between the burning structure and the calm water created an eerie yet powerful image, one that will define this phase of the war. For those watching around the world, the attack is a reminder of how fragile symbols of power can be. No matter how strong a structure appears, no monument can withstand the determination of a nation fighting for its survival. Ukraine's message through this strike is clear. No matter how many times Russia rebuilds, Ukraine will keep fighting back. In the broader picture, this event marks another turning point in the war. It demonstrates how Ukraine has shifted from defending its territory to taking the fight deep into occupied regions. It shows confidence, capability, and a willingness to challenge Russia's control at its core. And it proves that Putin's belief in complete dominance over Crimea is nothing more than an illusion. As the fires finally died down and the smoke cleared, the reality set in. The Crimea Bridge, once the crown jewel of Russian engineering, now stands broken again. And for Putin, who once promised that the bridge would stand forever, the sight of it in ruins must be hard to accept. This explosion will go down in history not just as a military strike, but as a symbol of resistance. It's a fiery reminder that no empire, no matter how powerful, can silence a nation's will to fight for freedom. The bridge may rise again, but each flame leaves a scar, one that tells the story of defiance, courage, and the unshakable resolve of a people who refuse to give up.